So I like to think of yoga as a way of learning a new language, but maybe not the way that we learn like a sort of global language like French or English or German. When we learn a language that's universally used, then there's sort of like there's the rules that apply to everybody, and that's what we have to learn. It's kind of more like learning to communicate maybe with a small child, and I think maybe you probably know this, that a child has a very unique, creative way of communicating, and the caregiver who spends the most time with the child is the best at ciphering what that child is trying to say. So like I'm now just noticing with my son, first of all, he's kind of like babbling in the corner, and then he moves to actually talking to me, and he has to ask his question maybe 2 or 3 times before I even process, like, oh, I'm supposed to be listening. And then okay, I understand he's asking me a question, and then I have to figure out like what is it he's saying. And my son in particular likes to speak in German and English together in the same sentence, so I'm trying to figure out like which language am I working with word for word, and eventually I get it, like he just wants a drink of water. So simple. But he's asked me maybe 4 times or 5 times before I get to this idea. He wants to have a drink of water. And I think we have the same relationship with our bodies when we come to our yoga practice. First, we have to learn to listen. Like we just have to figure out, like our bodies, they're talking to us all the time, and we have to be aware of that communication. And then once we figure out, like, okay, my body is saying something, then we have to figure out what it is that the body is saying, and it maybe takes a little bit of repetition before we get to that knowledge of like, okay, this is what my body needs, or this is what my body is asking for. And the process of yoga can really help us to get into that conversation. So it's a nice way to just be communicating with yourself when you get on your mat. So that's what we'll do today. We'll start lying down, and you can just find a comfortable way to lie on your back with your knees bent or your legs straight. Reorganize this for a moment. And then your arms by your sides, and get nice and heavy. Kind of feel your body pool into the floor, sort of softening around the edges. And if you're watching this live, we can really use this heat to help us in our practice, so that it's already so warm at 10 a.m. is really great in letting us explore a little bit of looseness. We're already in the process of softening. You feel your body becoming more buttery. And just let the weight of your hips and your shoulders and your head settle into the floor. And start to pay attention to your breathing, noticing the breath in the nose, in the throat, in your chest, in your belly. You might feel the extension of that breath in your arms, your legs, your feet, your face, your skin. And as you're exhaling and emptying all that breath out, you feel yourself get a little bit more soft, more heavy, more melted. And just spend a few moments here starting this process of listening. What is it that your body wants to say in particular today? What is it that your breath can tell you as it moves through your body, about how your body feels, about how your body is? And then from here, we'll just slowly draw the knees into the chest and take your hands or your arms around your shins, and rock a little bit side to side, kind of massaging your back against the floor.
And then we'll allow the right foot to drop down to the mat and cross your left ankle just above your right knee. And kind of keep that foot flexed. And just let the left knee fall away from the body, so really softening into the left outer hip. And you might stay here if this feels like a good first edge for yourself. If you have a little bit more space to explore, you might start to gather that right thigh in towards your left hand, reaching between your legs, right hand around to the outside, and then we just loop the hands around the right thigh or the right shin. Again, if it's too much, then stay in that more open shape. So I'm just still slowly starting to explore the space of the outer left hip. Make sure that your shoulders and your head stay nice and soft wherever you've ended up. And again, listening to your breathing, listening to the information that your breath can provide as it moves in your body. Great, and then if you're holding on to that right knee, you can just place it back, or place the foot rather, back towards the floor. And then we'll keep the left ankle crossed as it is over the right leg, and bring your arms out a little bit more to the sides, just so they're out of the way. And then we'll slowly let the right thigh drop out to the right so that the sole of the left foot can come down towards the floor. So you still have your ankle crossed just above your right knee. And we're finding then something of a twist, but also pulling in that outer left hip. If the floor feels too far away, you don't have to come all the way down, or you could even grab a block or a cushion or some improvised support to place your outer right leg and your left foot onto that support. See if you can keep guiding the left knee up in the direction of the ceiling. Let your left hip settle towards the floor, nice and heavy, so that we're finding more of that tugging in the outer left hip. Just a few more slow, steady breaths here. Really following your breath with your awareness so that you can be paying attention to the conversation between your breath and your body. Good, and then we'll come slowly back towards center and place the left foot to the floor. Cross your right ankle just above your left knee, letting that right knee kind of settle away from the body. And then once more, you can choose to just stay here in this more open shape, or if you feel that you have the room for it already, you might draw the left thigh closer in, your right hand threading through the legs, left hand around to the outside, and then looping around the thigh or around your left shin. It's whatever is a comfortable edge for you to begin with. The shoulders, the head, again, really nice and heavy, so there's no strain with the arms. And then turning all of your awareness back to your breathing. And we see that the breath might tell us something about ourselves. The breath might also help us to communicate with the body in that we can use the breath to loosen or untangle some of the knots that might be present. And then if you're holding onto that left leg, you can slowly let it go. We'll place the foot back to the floor, keeping the right ankle crossed over the left knee. Again, your arms are a little bit away from the hips, and we'll just slowly start to settle the left thigh out towards the left so that the sole of the right foot can drop towards the floor. And then keep that right knee in the direction of the ceiling, the right hip settling slightly back towards the floor. So keeping that tug in the outer right hip. Also enjoying this little bit of a twist in the spine. Nice full breaths here. And again, we can see both how the breath allows us to see our own bodies more clearly, and how the breath creates changes and shifts in the body so that the pose can be more comfortable, more relaxed. And then I'm going to inhale to come back up towards center. And take both feet to the floor, and then we'll just settle the knees over to the right, rolling onto your right side, making your way up towards all fours. So first to a seat and then coming over the knees and arriving with your knees under your hips and your wrists under your shoulders. And we'll just take a few rounds of cat and cow here. So as you're inhaling, begin to lengthen the belly, lifting your sits bones, lifting your chest. As you're exhaling, rounding the back, letting the head drop heavy. A nice fluid movement, continuing with your own rhythm of breathing, exploring the space of your spine, exploring the relationship between the spine and the hips, between movement in the upper back and movement in the shoulders. Seeing again if we can invite a little bit more looseness, more melted quality into the body so that we feel supple as we move. And we'll inhale back to a neutral shape in the spine. And from here, just stepping your feet back to come into a plank shape, leaning your weight over your wrists. Maybe you can bring your shoulders quite far forward, exploring the strength of the core as you lean into your hands. And then as you exhale, finding your way down towards your belly. You can come down as a straight line or knees first. We'll inhale into a little cobra, reaching the ribs forward, drawing the shoulders back. And as you exhale, you take your hips up and back, moving into a downward dog. And then just arriving comfortably in this first downward dog. We might alternately bend the knees or rock the hips. And anything that helps us to loosen up. And find an even sense in the joints of the legs, ankles, knees, hips. Right. And then we'll find a more fluid vinyasa. So with an inhale, rippling forward into your plank. Again, the shoulders nice and far forward over your wrists. Exhaling to lower your way down, this time maybe all the way or maybe just to chaturanga. Inhale to a cobra or upward dog, lengthening out through the belly. Exhale, picking your hips up and back, moving into your downward dog. And then again, a couple of breaths here in this downward dog, seeing if you can root firmly forward and down through your hands to send your hips up high, long space in the torso. And then with that lift in your hips, see if you can stretch your heels away from the sits bones to lengthen down the backs of the legs. And in downward dog, we might find a little bit of an inward rotation in the thighs, so just a slight internal rotation, which maybe feels like we turn the heels a tiny bit outwards and we press the inner thighs back and apart so that the sits bones can spread wider. And really able to breathe into that wide base of your pelvis. And then from here, we'll walk the feet forward to the hands, arriving at a comfortable forward fold. Knees can be as bent as you like. With an inhale, coming halfway up, reaching your ribs forward. Exhaling to empty and sink back down. Inhale again to come halfway up, the ribs reaching forward. Exhaling to empty and sink. And one more time, inhaling, lengthening forward through the ribs, lengthening out through your belly. And exhaling to empty the belly as you sink back into that heavy fold. And just for a moment here, letting yourself dangle. You might bring your hands to your opposite elbows if that feels good. You could sway the body a little bit, maybe give your head a little shake out, some yes, some no. Okay. And then we'll let the hands dangle back towards the floor, keeping the upper body heavy, pressing down into the feet, slowly starting to roll up to standing, exploring the length of your spine as you come up. So arms, head nice and heavy, rolling up through the spine. Eventually we're pressing down through the feet, lengthening up through the legs, lifting the ribs, spreading the shoulders wide. Nice tall reach up through the crown of your head. And then we'll inhale to reach the arms up, full stretch. Exhaling to fold, bringing your hands down towards the floor. Inhaling to come halfway up, the ribs reaching forward. Exhaling to soften back into that heavy shape, head relaxing towards the floor. Pressing into the feet, find a kind of half lift, so long spine, and then keep coming up all the way up into your standing, reaching the arms tall. Exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. Do that twice more. Inhaling to sweep the arms up, shoulders relaxing away from the ears. Exhaling to fold, hands melting towards the floor. Inhaling halfway up, stretching out through your torso. Exhaling to settle back down. Pressing into the feet, inhaling all the way back up, tall reach. And then exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. And again, inhaling to reach up. Exhale, folding, finding that hinging at your hips. Inhale to lengthen out through the torso. Exhale, and really scooping in through the lowest part of your belly to help you hinge more at the hips. And then pressing into the feet, inhale to come all the way up, nice tall reach. Exhale, hands to the center of the chest. Good. Well, inhale to reach the arms up, stretching tall. Exhale, folding forward, bringing your hands towards the floor. Inhaling halfway up to reach the ribs forward. Exhale, softening down, stepping the right foot back, or place the right knee down to the mat. Just coming up for one breath into a low lunge, arms reaching for the ceiling. Exhale, the hands come right back down to the floor, straightening out your right leg, press the mat away from you. Careful step back into plank, and again, following your own breath, traveling to downward dog along whatever path you like. Maybe an exhale to lower, inhale to a back bend, exhale to downward dog, or whatever other variation works for you. And then we'll inhale here to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale to hug the knee into the chest, step the right foot forward towards your hands, bring your left knee down to the floor. Inhaling and just one breath up into your low lunge. Exhale, the hands come right back down to the mat, stepping your left foot forward to meet the right. Inhaling halfway up, exhaling, softening back down, pressing into the feet, inhaling all the way up, arms reaching tall, exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. And inhale to sweep the arms up. Exhale, folding forward, hands towards the floor. Inhale, halfway up, reach the ribs forward. Exhale, softening, we'll step the left foot back. This time inhaling up into a high lunge, so reaching the arms up nice and tall, keeping that back leg long, seeing if we can settle the shoulders here, settle the hips a little bit, find the hug through the midline of the legs, draw the belly away from the right thigh, so you're centering your torso a little bit more back over your hips, getting into that space of your left hip crease. Nice long stretch up through the arms. And then we'll exhale to bring the hands to the floor, keeping that right leg where it is. You slowly start to straighten out your right leg as much as you're able. You can be on your fingertips here, or if you have blocks or something to improvise with, you could bring your hands up higher. You can stay nice and high on the ball of your left foot. Send your hips up towards the sky. Also really send that right hip back. And then as you're reaching up and back with the hips, draw your heart forward and then melt a little bit more over that right leg, with as much length in your spine as you can find. Just a few more breaths here. Nice long stretch through the back of your right leg. And then we'll bend the right knee, plant the hands to the floor, push the mat away from you. Again, careful step back to plank, moving with your breath, finding your own path to downward dog. Inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, knee into the chest. Step the left foot forward towards your hands. High lunge on the inhale, reaching your arms up alongside your ears. Finding the settling quality in the shoulders and the hips. Drawing towards your midline, so inner legs hugging towards center, low belly hugging in away from that left thigh. And seeing if we can use that sense of stability to grow taller up through the ribs, even as you're letting the hips continue to drop. So you can think about stretching out your spine in both directions. And then we'll exhale the hands back down to the floor, keeping that left foot where it is. You can just slowly start to straighten out the left leg as much as you're able. And maybe setting your hands onto support or coming up onto your fingertips. Keep the right heel lifting away from the floor. Send your hips up high. Send the left hip back. And then as you're reaching up and back with the hips, stretching forward through the ribs, and then spill your heart down towards your left big toe with as much length in your spine as you can find. A few steady breaths here. And we're seeing if you can find the sensation of the stretch in the back of the left leg. And then we'll bend the left knee. From here, stepping your right foot forward to meet the left. Inhale to come halfway up. Exhale to sink back down. Pressing into the feet. Inhale all the way up, nice tall stretch. Exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. And inhale, sweeping the arms back up, stretching tall. Exhale, folding forward, bringing the hands towards the floor. Inhaling halfway up, reaching your ribs forward. Exhale, softening, we'll plant the hands, stepping both feet back to plank, and again, your own path to downward dog. Great. And we'll find a little pattern of flow here, which we'll repeat several times, so if it seems a bit complicated at first, don't worry. By the end, I think we'll have figured it out. So we're going to inhale to reach the right leg up and back. Exhale, hug the knee into the chest, step the right foot forward towards your hands. Bring your left foot flat to the floor. We'll inhale to come up into warrior one. And settle the hips nice and low. Good. Then from here, we're gonna turn both feet towards the left, angle the toes outwards, bend your knees and bend your elbows. So we're coming into a kind of goddess shape. You can sit the hips really low, really press the knees out in the direction of your toes. And now we're gonna move towards warrior two at the back edge of your mat. So left toes turn to the back edge of the mat, left arm reaching out over your left leg. Good, and then we'll inhale to reverse warrior, the left arm sweeping back. Exhale, bringing your hands down towards the floor. We're gonna straighten out the left leg, moving into skandasana. So we can sit towards the right heel as the left foot flexes, left leg nice and long. And now we're gonna find skandasana in the other direction. So you're gonna sit towards your left heel, spin your right toes up to the ceiling. So the right leg long towards the top edge of your mat. And then from here, we come back into warrior two towards the top edge of the mat and go right into reverse warrior, your right side body nice and long. Exhale, windmilling your hands down to the floor, taking a careful step back to plank, moving with your breath, your path to downward dog. And so we'll find now the left side. We're inhaling to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, hug the knee into the chest. Step the left foot forward towards your hands. Right heel spins down to the floor. Inhaling to come up warrior one. Good, then we straighten the legs, spin the feet to the right, turn the toes outwards, bend the knees, bend the elbows, sit your hips low, and really push the knees out in the direction of your toes. Good, now spinning towards the back edge of your mat for warrior two. So right toes to the back edge of the mat, reach the arms out shoulder height. Inhaling to reverse warrior, the right arm long alongside your right ear. Exhaling, bringing your hands down to the floor, start to sit towards that left heel as you lengthen your right leg out. So skandasana towards the back edge of your mat. And then moving across, sitting towards your right heel as you lengthen that left leg out, spin the left toes up towards the ceiling. And then with the left foot to the top of the mat, warrior, reverse warrior, the left arm sweeping alongside your left ear. Exhaling to windmill the hands down to the floor, stepping back to plank, moving with your own breath, your path to downward dog. Good, so that's our little seed, and we'll build upon it. And first, just taking a nice full breath here in downward dog, lengthening up through the spine. And as you exhale, you can bend the knees, look forward. You might step or hop the feet up towards your hands. Inhale to come halfway up. Exhale to sink back down. And inhaling to come all the way up to a nice tall stance, reaching the arms tall. Exhaling the hands to the center of the chest. Good, and then from here we'll move into a tree pose. You can lean your weight first into your right foot, pick up your left leg, bring the left knee out to the left, set the left foot somewhere along the inside of your right leg, either below or above your knee. Really squeezing the left foot, the right leg into each other so you're physically holding your center line. Make sure the hips are truly square. As you're ready, maybe arms reaching up towards the ceiling. Nice tall stretch here. Up through the fingers, keep rooting down through the base of your right big toe. See if you can use that squeeze between your left foot and your right leg to help you hold your balance, but also to help you keep spinning that left thigh bone out in the hip socket so that we get a wider space across the front of the pelvis. A little bit more stretch through the inner left thigh. Good. And then we're just slowly gonna come down and step the left foot back. So moving right into warrior two here. And then straightening the right leg, spinning your toes towards the left, turn the toes outwards, bend the knees, bend the elbows, sit the hips nice and low. Spinning towards the back of your mat for warrior two. Left toes to the back of the mat. Inhaling reverse warrior, left arm alongside your left ear. Exhaling Skandasana, sitting towards your right heel, left leg long, left toes turn up towards the ceiling. And then taking your hips across, sitting towards your left heel, right leg stretches out, right toes spin up towards the ceiling. Reverse warrior to the top edge of your mat, so right foot rooting, sweep your right arm alongside your right ear. And then from here, we'll straighten the right leg, stretch back through your right side body a little bit more. Moving into triangle pose, reach your right arm as far forward as you're able. Exhaling, right arm down, left arm up, coming into that full triangle shape. Just taking a few breaths here, the hips reaching back, the ribs lengthening forward, stretching out your center body. You can roll your left side ribs open. Nice steady full breaths. And inhaling to come back up to standing. Exhaling to bend your right knee, warrior two. Inhale, reverse warrior, the right arm reaching back. Exhaling to windmill your hands down to the floor. Stepping back to plank, moving with your own breath, your path to downward dog. Inhaling here, reaching your hips up nice and high so you can get long through your torso. Exhaling to bend the knees, look forward, step or hop your feet up towards your hands. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, settle back down. Inhaling all the way up, arms reaching nice and tall. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. Maybe hands to your hips. Shifting your weight into your left foot, we'll come back into tree pose with the left foot rooted, picking up the right leg, right knee out to the right. You can set the foot either below or above your knee. You can even have your right toes on the floor if that's the support you need. See, once you've found the right spot, if you can again really hold your center line with the right foot and the left leg pushing into each other. And then as you're ready, arms reaching up nice and tall. So you can again stretch out in both directions. You're moving down through the roots of your feet, moving up through the branches of your fingers. And you only have to look outside at all of the trees right now, just about to bust into bloom, to think about how we might feel in this shape, how we might embody the tree beginning to leaf, and just growing outwards in every direction. And then we'll slowly, or quickly, step back into warrior two. So the right knee can come forward, and then we just take a careful step back. Warrior two towards the top edge of your mat. And then we're gonna straighten the left leg, spin the toes over to the right. So turning your toes outwards, bending your knees, bending your elbows, sit nice and low. And then we'll turn towards the back edge of the mat. So warrior two, the right foot towards the back edge of the mat. Inhale, reverse warrior, the right side body long. Exhale, the hands sweep down towards the floor, sitting towards your left heel. Sometimes the words just don't come out. That's also part of the communication process. Sometimes the shapes also just don't come out. Good, then we'll sit across to the right heel, the left leg long, spinning your left toes up, finding that space in the back of your left leg. Good, warrior two to the top edge of your mat, so left foot rooting, sweep back through your left arm. And then straightening your left leg here, see if you can stretch back a little bit more deeply.
Good. Hinging at your left hip, reach your left arm as far forward as you can, and then we'll exhale the left arm down, the right arm up for a triangle pose. Sending your hips back, lengthening out through the torso. See if you can get your left side waist especially really long here, so you can feel the space in the back of the left leg and the inner left thigh. And really full breath, remembering to use your breath as your best communication tool to be in communion with your body. And then we'll inhale to come back up. Exhale, bending the left knee. Inhale once more, reverse warrior, nice long space in the left side. Exhaling the hands to the floor. Stepping back to plank. Finding your path to downward dog. And then again here, seeing if you can create more length in your spine, more buoyancy in your hips, sending your hips up really high. And we'll exhale to bend the knees, look forward, step the feet or hop the feet up towards the hands. Inhale to come halfway up. Exhale to sink back down. Inhaling all the way up, arms reaching tall. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. Shifting your weight back into your right foot, bring the hands back to the hips. We'll find some bend in the knees this time, and then cross the left ankle just above your right knee. See if you can sit the hips a little bit lower, so you start to feel more of that space in the outer left hip. You can bring your hands now to the center of the chest. As you sit your hips back, and kind of use your thumbs to guide your heart forward so you get long through the torso. Maybe you keep folding. You might place your forearms down onto that left calf. You might even find that it's comfortable to reach your hands towards the floor, so just whatever your edge is. Again, the hips reaching back, heart reaching forward, lengthening out through the low back. And enjoying that tug in the outer left hip. And then we'll see if we can just as slowly find our way back up, step by step. Eventually picking up that left knee, big step back with your left foot, moving into warrior two. Straightening your right leg, spinning your toes to the left, turn the toes out, bend the knees, bend the elbows, sit low. You could even do like a lion's breath here or Kali breath. Stick your tongue out. And then we'll come back into warrior two towards the back edge of the mat. So left toe spinning to the back edge of the mat. Inhale, reverse warrior, the left arm long alongside your left ear. Exhaling to windmill the hands down to the floor, sitting towards your right heel, left leg long, skandasana to the back edge of the mat. Transferring across to the left heel, right leg long, right toe spin up. And then rooting the right foot, reverse warrior to the front edge of your mat, right arm alongside your right ear. And this time we're gonna exhale to bring the right hand down towards the floor or right forearm to your right thigh. Take your left arm alongside your left ear for extended side angle. And just breathing a few times here, seeing if you can hug that right hip in towards your midline. Roll your left side ribs open, good bend in the right knee. Nice long stretch out through your left side body, again in both directions. We can root down through the outer left foot and reach out through your left fingers. Good. And then from here we'll drop both hands down towards the floor and frame that right foot. Tuck your left toes under. I'm gonna turn the right toes towards the right thumb and then roll onto the outer edge of your right foot. So your right knee is starting to settle out to the right. And then we walk the hands forward. Press forward and down through your hands to shift weight towards your back foot. You can bring your left knee down to the floor here if you need a modification. Seeing if we can breathe into the backs of the shoulders. And then as you're exhaling, letting your hips settle so that right ankle is flexed. It's long on both sides. I'm just letting the right knee keep rolling out to the right side so that we can explore that space in the outer right hip. You might also find some sensation of stretch in the front of your left hip crease. Lots of opportunities here for your body to speak to you in different ways, depending on what your own unique language is. Different in everybody. Good, and then we'll walk the hands back in and straighten the right foot out. From here, you can step back to plank. And again, moving with your own breathing, your path to downward dog.
End of your next exhale, bending your knees, look forward. You can step your feet or hop your feet up towards your hands. Inhaling halfway up, exhaling to sink back down. Pressing into the feet, inhaling to come all the way up, nice tall reach. Exhaling, hands to the center of the chest. And then hands to your hips. We'll shift weight into the left foot. You can pick up your right knee, crossing your right ankle just above the left leg. Start to bend a little bit more into the left knee. You can sit a little bit back in the hips, and then we'll maybe take the hands to the center of the chest. As you're reaching back through your hips, you can stretch forward through the center of your chest. Maybe we fold a little bit deeper, forearms coming down onto that right calf. Allow the right knee to sink outwards, but see if you can keep your right hip level with the left. So maybe we put some effort actually into even lifting slightly through the right hip as we let the right knee settle down. You might drop your hands towards the floor here if that feels available and useful. Again, really long space in the low back to help us access the chain of muscles that wrap around the outside and the back of the right hip. And then we'll come just as slowly back up, step by step. Picking up the right knee, take a big step back with your right foot, warrior two, to the front edge of the mat, straightening the left leg, turning the toes, spinning the toes outwards, bending your knees, bending your elbows. Again, maybe that Kali exhale, stick your tongue out, letting it all go. And then we'll spin towards the back edge of the mat, warrior two. Inhale, reverse warrior, the right arm long alongside your right ear. Exhale, sweeping your hands down to the floor, sitting to the left heel, Skandasana to the back edge of your mat. Sweeping across towards the right heel, left leg long, Skandasana towards the front edge of your mat. Warrior two or reverse warrior to the front edge of the mat, left foot root, sweep the left arm alongside your left ear. And then exhaling the left hand down to the floor or left forearm to your left thigh, right arm alongside your right ear, extended side angle. And see if you can let the hips sink a little bit lower, sweep your left hip in towards your center line, roll your right side ribs open, find that really long space in your right side body. Breathe more specifically into the right side ribs, into the spaces between the ribs. And then we'll exhale to bring both hands down to the floor, framing your left foot. Tuck your right toes under and spin your left toes out to the left. Roll onto the outer edge of your left foot. So again, the ankle long on both sides. We'll walk the hands forward. You can modify by bringing the right knee to the floor if that's what you need. Big breaths into the backs of the shoulders. And then as you exhale, let the hips settle. So we can get into the space of the outer left hip. Maybe sensation in the front of the right hip, maybe what you feel is somewhere else entirely. And everybody's language is different. And your job is to just understand that unique speech that belongs only to you. Good. And then we'll walk the hands back in, straightening out that left foot. Stepping back to plank, moving with your breath, your path to downward dog. And just taking a moment here again to see if you can really lengthen out through the torso, lengthen out through the backs of your legs. Find a slow, steady, nourishing rhythm in your breathing. Yeah. With your next inhale, we'll reach the right leg up and back. Exhale to draw the right knee towards your right wrist, and then lay the shin bone down at an angle that works for you. Doesn't have to be anything like 90 degrees. And then we'll just settle into a pigeon shape here. So seeing if you can rest your hips evenly to the floor, or sit on some support. The right hip can stay level. As you're ready, you might start to creep your hands forward. You could come down onto your forearms, or perhaps even all the way down onto your forehead. Whatever edge works for you. If this shape is not great for you, you could come back to that first shape that we had on the back. Thread the needle and just work there instead, so there's not too much pressure on your knee or on your SI joint. And we'll just stay here for a few steady breaths. See Seeing if we can kind of dig in again to that space of the outer right hip. Using your breath to comb through any tensions or knots that you discover. And then we'll come slowly back up onto the hands. From here, you can sit completely onto that right hip. You could move any support out of the way if you were using it. And then we'll swing the left leg forward. I'm just placing the right foot to the inner left thigh. Maybe even hug the heel right up in towards the groin. We'll sit up nice and tall. What's going on with my hair? Okay, sitting up nice and tall, turning your chest in the direction of your left leg, and inhaling to reach up, and then exhaling to fold. And just taking a few moments here. It's so much easier to teach when you're not moving around so much, and then you could just have the same messy hairstyle that you know that you started with. It doesn't get all over the place. What are you doing? Okay, taking a few more breaths here, not worrying about your hair. That's not part of yoga at all. Nice long breaths into the low spine. As you're exhaling, the low belly drawing in. Maybe that helps you to fold a little bit more at your hip creases. You can find that kind of hinging quality again at your left hip. And then we'll slowly come back up towards the seat. Bend your left knee, tuck the right foot in so that it's kind of under the left thigh, and then we can cross the left ankle towards the outside of the right knee, and see if you can root both of your sits bones here. If it doesn't work for you in this cross shape, you could straighten out your right leg as an alternative. And so I'm just seeing if we can get long through the spine, sit up tall in the front edge of the sits bones. We'll bring the left hand behind the body, inhale to reach the right arm up, and then exhaling to turn to the left for your twist. And I'm just going to go the other way, so don't look at me. And so turning to the left, seeing if you can grow tall as you inhale, and then maybe twist a little bit deeper as you exhale. All of your attention to your breathing, despite other impulses to look outwards, to worry about things that are on your surface or outside of yourself. See if you can keep all of your awareness turned inwards so that we're not missing any information or any communication from our bodies. Good. And then we'll slowly turn back towards center. You might want to take a little counter twist to the right, just to even things out. Good. And then from here, we'll move into the double pigeon shape. So you can step your left foot in front of the right shin to begin with, and then we'll see if we can bring the right shin parallel to the top edge of the mat. From here, we might just let the left knee settle down onto the right ankle and tuck the left ankle in under the right knee. So it's not exactly all fours. It's more of a, think of like a triangle shape, with the pelvis being the point of the triangle, and then really a straight line across the tops of your shins. If you feel able to take it a little bit further, we're gonna pick up the whole right leg. So really seeing that we find the turning from the right thigh, the whole leg picks up so that we can the left leg, picking up your whole left leg, just to make things really confusing, so that we can really turn the left thigh outwards and then set the left ankle on top of your right knee. And then maybe that left knee can sink down towards the right ankle. There might be lots of space. Don't worry about it. We just want to make sure again that the ankles are relatively long on both sides, so we have kind of a flex shape in the ankles and no strain in the knees. If it doesn't feel good for your knees, then come back to that alternative with the left foot still on the floor. You can sit up nice and tall here wherever you are. Sometimes it's helpful to kind of manually roll the thigh bones outwards. You could like physically use both hands to
find that little bit of rolling, or just push down and out on the upper thigh bones. And then once you've found a level of comfort here, or if you find a level of comfort here, I guess I should say, then maybe we explore a little bit of a forward fold. So you can start to tip your torso forward. You could bring your hands in front of your shins. You might keep walking out, just whatever your own edges, and paying attention to what your body is telling you along the way, especially listening to your knees. If there's too much sensation, too much talking in the knees, then we know that we need to come back a step or 2 steps or 5 steps until we get to a space where the knees are not speaking to us in any way that's uncomfortable. Again, it can be helpful here to really breathe into the low back, to feel that we start at the top of the chain of muscles that run around the outer hip. So the more we stretch out the low back, the more we get into the sensation in the outer hips. And then we can slowly come back up. We'll swing that left leg around behind the body, leaning back into your hands, tucking your left toes under, carefully picking up your hips. You could move through a vinyasa if you like, or just go straight back to downward dog. So just finding a nice way to sort of clear out the body, a sense of evenness on both sides. And then we'll inhale to reach the left leg up and back. Exhale, left knee towards the left wrist, setting the shin bone down at an angle that works for you. Kind of scooch back through that right knee. Make sure again that you can settle your hips at an even rate towards the floor. So if you need support under the left hip, you could find something to keep it slightly up. And then from here, you can slowly reach forward with the heart, coming down maybe onto your forearms, or maybe all the way down onto your forehead. Just again, moving to whatever your own sweet edge is, so that we find an ability to communicate with ourselves gently. And think about how you might want to have conversation with the person that you love the most. And see if you can embody that quality of conversation in how you communicate with your own body. So maybe the communication is not too loud. The communication is loving and tender. The communication leaves room for laughter or humor, and whatever else that you think that you would need to have a really nice conversation. And maybe you kind of like this pose, and so it's relatively within reach to have that nice conversation, but maybe this pose is really challenging for you, and then it's especially interesting to see how we can speak to ourselves or be with ourselves in a way that's gentle and kind and tender. And then we'll slowly come back up onto the hands. You can shift all of your weight over into that left hip, swing the right leg forward, and then we'll bring the left heel into the upper right leg, or maybe even right into the groin. And sit up on the front sits bones. Turn your chest in the direction of your right leg. You can inhale to reach the arms up, and then exhale to fold over the right leg, settling your hands wherever they comfortably fall. Taking slow, steady breaths here.
and all of your effort in watching your breathing. And if we're really truly watching the breathing with all of our attention, then the other conversations that might be going on in our heads can slip into the background or dissolve completely. And that can be quite useful too, that we use the breath to sort of drown out other thoughts that might not be so helpful. Maybe we're too busy in our minds, or maybe we're too judgmental in our minds, maybe we're worrying about our hair. And paying attention to the breath can allow us to just move away from all of that unnecessary thinking and speaking to ourselves. And you can slowly come back up. And we'll find again the twist. So you can first bend the right knee, shift the left heel in just kind of under the right thigh a little bit so that we're able to cross the right foot to the outside of the left knee. And then again, see if you can really settle both hips evenly. If you can't, we straighten out that left leg. Sit up nice and tall, right hand behind you. Inhale to reach the left arm up. Exhale, twisting to the right for anyone who's not carrying a baby. And then sitting up even taller every time you inhale, and turning a little bit more to the right as you're exhaling. Coming back to your own breathing. And then maybe just taking a little gentle counter twist in the other direction. And we'll turn back towards center. Place the right foot in front of your left shin. Set that left shin so that it's parallel to the top edge of your mat. And then the right knee can settle onto the right ankle, and maybe we just into the left ankle, maybe we just tuck the right ankle under the left knee. So again, we have this kind of triangle shape in the legs. It's not exactly the same as a cross-legged shape. And we really still want to feel that external rotation, that rolling outwards of the thigh bones. Or we pick up the whole right leg. We feel again that spinning come from the hip, so it's not a movement of the knee. And then we can set the right ankle onto the left knee, and we just slowly allow that right knee to ease down to whatever space it can comfortably move to. So again, the ankle is long on both sides, both feet. Maybe the hands helping us to get a little bit more of that rolling outwards quality. You'll find probably that one side feels quite different than the other. It's interesting to notice. And we can sit up really nice and tall here. And then if you feel able, we could start to tip the torso a little bit forward. We might walk the hands slightly in front of the shins, and just coming down into whatever level of fold is appropriate for you, without introducing any strain in the knees, and without introducing too much sensation in the hips even. So if your hips are kind of screaming at you, then it's hard to have a good conversation. Maybe we can move back from that loudness to something that's more manageable, so that we're really able then to see like where exactly is the tightness, how can I breathe exactly into that space, how can I move towards loosening, or what is it that my body needs in terms of nourishment. Maybe you just don't need that really deep stretch right now, and what you need is something more gentle. Just a couple more big, full, juicy breaths here. And then we'll slowly come back up, leaning into your left hip. You can swing the right leg all the way back behind you Bringing your weight forward into your hands, tuck your right toes under. Once more, we'll pick the hips up. You could move through one last vinyasa if you like, or just going straight back to downward dog, whatever your body is calling for. Great. And then we'll bring the knees down to the mat, cross your ankles to roll over the feet or sit the hips off to one side, swinging your legs forward. And then just finding your way right down onto your back. Settle down. Nice and heavy. Place the soles of the feet to the floor, hip width apart. Bringing your arms by your sides, moving into a bridge pose, so pressing down through the feet. We'll inhale to lift the hips. And interlace your fingers underneath you, snuggle your shoulders in close underneath the body, really squeezing the shoulder blades in towards each other. Keep pressing down through the feet and the backs of the arms to send your hips up high. And reach the tailbone in the direction of the knees and stretch your chest towards your chin to lengthen out the torso. And just find lots of good breath now into the chest, the belly, the fronts of the hips, the tops of the thighs. And then exhaling to slowly settle back down, separate your hands, let the hips be heavy. Maybe wiggling the feet out a little bit and let the knees soften in towards each other. So just come into a neutral space in the spine. You might like to have hands to your belly or hand to the belly, hand to the heart. And feeling the breath move into the cups of your hands wherever they are. And then we'll just separate the knees, keeping the feet nice and wide apart, and bring your arms out away from your sides. So with the feet wide apart, as you exhale, you can let both of the legs sink over to the right, and especially allow that left leg to drop into center so we feel the internal rotation as a alternative movement to all of the external rotation we've been doing. And then we slowly come back to center, and then exhale, both knees over to the left. And again, really feeling how that right leg can drop inwards. Inhaling to center. Exhaling over to the right. So you can keep going a few more times, your own pace, maybe taking a little bit more time to feel the inward rotation, or maybe going in a really nice and fluid motion with your breath, whatever you like. And just noticing how your thigh bones kind of roll through the hip sockets and seeing if you can find a smooth liquid quality in that movement. Again, like there's a butteriness into the joint. Good. And then we'll eventually come back to center. And you can take your knees into your chest. And then we're going to reach the legs up towards the ceiling and reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Keep some softness in your knees and some softness in your elbows. So you can think of like a dead bug lying on its back. And then we're just going to start to shake a little bit through the arms and the legs. So maybe we start relatively slowly, just to be free in your movements so we don't have to worry about how this looks. Be grateful that we're alone at home. And then maybe a little bit more wildness as we continue to shake through the arms and the legs, really loosening up the joints as much as you're able. I'm thinking about the wrists, the elbows, the knees, the ankles, maybe some space even in the shoulders and the hips. You can kind of feel your whole body shake as you shake out the legs and the arms. And just for another moment more, make it really vigorous. Not letting anything hold you back. Good. And then we can come back towards stillness. We'll fold the knees into the chest, wrap your arms around your legs, and rock a little bit here side to side, maybe just a final massaging of the back against the floor. Good. And then releasing your legs out and coming into Shavasana. And with the knees bent or legs straight as you like. You settle nice and heavy into the floor. Once more, allowing your body to pool on your mat. And if we worked up some extra warmth, or maybe even a little moisture through the practice, then all the better. And rest here in that glow. And for a moment, we see if we can kind of let the conversation get quiet. Or perhaps we let the communication spread out so that rather than just focusing on yourself, we let the idea of the self dissolve beyond the edges of our skin. And we enter into communication or communion with everything that is around us. See if we can spill outwards with our physical selves, with our mental selves, with our emotional selves. And as we become more diffuse, we lose the sense of the boundary between me and the rest of the world. Just a few more quiet moments here. And then you can again slowly start to find the physical boundaries of your body, inviting breath into that enclosed space inside your skin, and feeling still how expansive that enclosed space is. Maybe wiggle the fingers and the toes. And inhale to stretch long, reach your fingers back behind your head, stretch forward through your toes. And as you exhale, bending the knees, rolling towards your right side. And find your way slowly up to a comfortable seat. And we'll just take a moment here, cross-legged or whatever feels good for you, with your eyes closed, sitting up nice and tall. Another opportunity to practice deep listening. And to notice how alive and present we feel when we listen closely. So that maybe we can carry some of this lesson of listening into the rest of our day. And bringing your hands together at the center of your chest. And thank yourself for your practice. I'd like to close with an Om, which you could do out loud if you feel comfortable, or if you feel like there's other people in your house who might think you're weird, then you could also just do your Om under your breath. And we'll take a big full inhale first through the nose, sighing it out through the mouth, and then breathing into sound. Deep breath in. Namaste.